Today I'm going to show you how to make this bubblegum necklace. So this is made with some rather large bubblegum beads. These are 20 millimeters and 16 millimeters. And I made it with wire, and I also used jump rings to make the chain, or a part of the chain. Now this is a long necklace, it sits quite low. You could obviously make it shorter if you wanted to, just by attaching a clasp at the length that you wanted. Maybe you wanted it to be this long, you could attach a clasp here rather than attaching just the silver chain. Okay, let's get started. To make this necklace, you're going to need 5 of these 20 by 18 millimeter bubblegum resin rhinestone beads. These are in, the colour is called Camellia. You will need 4 of these 16 millimeter bubblegum acrylic beads, and I've got here 8 4 millimeter desert sun beads in hot pink. I have 10 9 millimeter flat flower rondelles in antique silver. I've got 8 of these 8 by 6 millimeter glass rondelles, and these are a opaque white. I have 18 10 millimeter jump rings and 32 4 millimeter jump rings. Now I used these to make the chain. You will also need some 20 gauge wire and 40 centimeters of silver chain. Let's get started. As you can see, this necklace is made up with several components. So if we take a look at this one, this is the bubblegum rhinestone bead, and it's made on a piece of wire with a loop at each end. And if I look at this one, it's the acrylic bubblegum with the rondelles and the 4 millimeters, and it's also on a wire with a loop at each end. Now because I'm making so many loops today, I'm actually going to use my one-step looper. So let me show you how that works. We're going to start off by using the bubblegum beads, the rhinestone ones, and some wire. So I'm just going to measure off a piece of wire and cut it off. And I'm going to start by making a loop at one end of this wire. So the one-step looper is a great tool. It makes uniform loops every single time. So what you do is you take your wire and you pop it through the pliers here, and you'll see there's a hole in the back side. So you pop your wire through and out through the hole, and then all you do is squeeze. Let me show you this up close. Squeeze, and what it does is it creates the loop and it cuts it all in one go. So I'm just going to give that a little twist because I want my loop to be in the middle. Let it go, and there you have one perfect loop. So I'm going to be making a few of those, so that's why I thought I'd use my one-step looper. So there I've got my loop, and I'm going to pop on my flat flower rondelle, my rhinestone ball. These are huge, these beads are fantastic, I love them, and another of my flat flowers. So that's that component there, and all I want to do now is make a loop at the other end. So once again, I'm going to thread the wire through my one-step looper, bring it all the way down so that the bead is next to the jaws of the pliers, squeeze and remove. Now sometimes they don't close properly, that's okay. We can take our pliers and just make sure that we close them. We will be opening them up again shortly anyway to attach them. So I need 5 of those, so I'm going to go ahead and make 5. Okay, that was nice and quick. I just love that one-step looper, it makes life so much quicker. Next, I'm going to make the other component, which I'll just pop those out of the way. Is also made with loops. It starts with a loop, and then it has it goes like this. So it has a bubblegum bead, a rondelle, and the small desert sun. Okay, so we're going to make those as well. So popping this wire back into the looper, I'm going to make the loops for this one as well. So now I have my loop, I'm going to feed on these beads. So that's my component there, and I'm just going to use my looper to make a loop at the other end. This looper makes things so much faster. Just be careful though, because you can see here I've popped that bead inside the looper, and you don't want to do that or you will squish the bead and shatter it. So make sure that the bead sits on the outside of the looper. Okay, so there's one, and we need 4, so we'll go ahead and make some more. I often like to use these sorting trays. They just make it quite easy to contain your beads and make them go, make them available to you. Sometimes beads tend to fly away, like that one. So I put my beads in these sorting trays so that they stay still while I'm using them. Okay, a loop on the other end. Now the thing with using your one-step looper is that you will end up with small pieces of wire. Now I keep these. You never know when you might need a small piece of wire. Okay, now I have my 4 components, and I'm just going to add those to my other 5 components that I have already made. So I'm going to lay it out the way that I would have it. Now I started with a large rhinestone in the middle, and 2 on either side, and I popped those smaller ones between, and that's as simple as it is, just laying it out like that. Now I'm going to open my loops and just make sure they're all closed and join them together. I need my pliers for this. Having the one-step looper really makes this project really fast. Having to make all these loops by hand would have taken me a long time. Now obviously I still have to make sure that my loops are closed properly so that they don't fall apart. I'm just going through and double checking every loop just to make sure that it is nice and tightly closed. As I said, sometimes the looper doesn't quite close them, so just making sure they're all nicely closed. Nope, it's not quite enough. Just a reminder, if you are opening loops, you should open them up or down, not pulling them out, otherwise you'll ruin the integrity of the loop or the shape of the loop. And to close them, you just give them a wiggle. I should probably explain myself a bit better. So to close it, you pull it back up towards, and you can see there it's not quite closed. So then you can just give it a little up and down wiggle to close it. I've covered making loops several times in other tutorials, so you will, if you need some help with that, you can go and have a look at those other tutorials. All right. So there's the main part of the necklace. Now the next part of the necklace is the chain, and I wanted to show you this before we start making it. When I was making this, I thought that I would just add a standard chain, but it was not heavy enough and it didn't look right. So what I decided to do was I made my chain out of jump rings, and I've done that by using a large 10mm one here, and then I've used some 4mm ones too for each loop, for each chain. So I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll join it all together. So here I have my 10mm jump rings and my 4mm jump rings. Now I've got two pairs of pliers here. These are chain nose pliers, one longer than the other. And the reason is because these jump rings are quite thick. They're quite a heavy gauge, and so they are actually quite hard to open. So I can open it with my fingers, but it's really challenging. So I use two pairs of pliers to do that. So I take one on one side and one on the other, and obviously the split is at the top there, and I just rotate one towards me and one away. And then I'm going to add on two of these teeny tiny jump rings. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to make sure that these jump rings are closed, and I'm going to do that. If you can see there, they are not quite closed tight, so I'm actually going to just give them a squeeze with the pliers. And sometimes you can do this just by giving them a squeeze like that, and you hear that click and they pop into place. So now it's a nice closed ring. So I'm going to feed two of those onto my large jump ring. This one's not closed either, so I'll just give it a squeeze. And this is an example of one that doesn't want to pop in. Oh no, it has, so that's good. All right, so we put on two of those, and then we close up the jump ring. So basically that's all we're going to do to make this chain. We take a look at it again. It is a ring with two jump rings. Now I'll attach the next ring. So I take my large jump ring again, make sure it's open, and I attach it to the smaller jump rings. And while I've got it there, I'm going to feed on these two jump rings as well. So now I've got whoops, trying to show you it separately and it fell off. So now I have two jump rings which are attached to the ring and two that aren't attached to the other jump ring, and I'm going to close it. Now I'm going to take those two jump rings here and attach them to the next one. This is so effective, but it's pretty easy to do. So once again, I'm going to feed on those two jump rings like that, and then I'm going to put on two more. But first I'm going to close them. This one is a perfect example of a jump ring that isn't going to just snap into place because it's too far overlapped. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my two pairs of pliers and just wiggle it backwards and forwards until it makes the perfect loop. And the same with this one. So as you wiggle it backwards and forwards, you just give it a little bit of an open, just a tiny bit. It's really just such a small movement. Okay. Now I'm going to feed those two on and close up my jump ring. Now I'm just going to continue on in that manner until I have 9 of these rings, of the large jump rings, joined together, and I'm going to finish off with a large one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I've only got 8 lots of small jump rings. So when we've done that, we can attach the chain. So I'm on my last jump ring and I haven't closed it yet. So there it is. And what I'm going to do is just pop on the end of this chain and close it up. Now I'm going to take the other end and I'm going to attach it to my my necklace. So I've got my, I've opened my loop here and I'm just going to attach it like that, and just close up my loop, making sure it's nice and firmly closed. Okay, and I've already done the other side. So there you have your bubblegum necklace. Now, as I said, it should sit with one of these rhinestone balls in the centre and the other two up on either side. Now, as I said, you could actually just attach a clasp here and make it into a shorter necklace if you wanted to. I just really liked the idea of having it long. So there you have your bubblegum necklace. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, click the subscribe button and the bell so that you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. I've left links below in the description for everything you will need to make this necklace. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.